Somewhere in England tonight, a brilliant teacher is writing a resignation letter. They haven't stopped caring about children. They don't want to leave, but because they ran out of energy, passion, drive. Perhaps they've burnt out. And here is the thing that research tells us that most head teachers don't fully hear or don't want to hear. That teacher isn't leaving, and it's not inevitable. It was predictable. It's preventable. Did you know that research tells us that the factors driving teachers to leave or stay are largely within the control of school leaders? And this makes leadership practice one of the most powerful levers available. If you're a head teacher, an executive head teacher, this video is for you. Because what I'm about to share might change how you lead from Monday morning, even from tomorrow. You might think that this is a recruitment crisis, but it isn't, is it? Are you worrying about how to recruit, seeing a gap in your staffing coming up? You see, in 2021, the NEU told us that 1 in 3 teachers in England plan to leave, and that was within 5 years. And then in 2024, we heard that 23% of teachers left their school in 2022 to 23. 30% of new teachers left within that same year. We all know these statistics, and they haven't improved. You cannot recruit your way out of a retention crisis like this. Every teacher who leaves takes with them institutional knowledge, pupil relationships, years of professional development. You can hire someone new, but you can't replace what they knew. You've lost all of that. Costs a fortune. So the real question is, how do we fill the gap? Can I suggest the more urgent question is, why are we creating a gap at all? Because the research is stark, isn't it? Across more than 2 decades of international research, a remarkably consistent picture emerges. Teachers aren't leaving because of the children, and they're not primarily leaving because of pay. In fact, they're leaving because of how the profession makes them feel. The push factors are almost always the same. Workload. This particularly is about tasks unconnected to teaching, and it is the most cited reason teachers are leaving. Poor relationships with school leadership is also an issue. Poor trust, poor communication, perceived surveillance. These are real top drivers of attrition. And looking at the TES workload document in 2026, it reminds us of what teachers have been saying for years. It says the findings suggest that the profession is moving from a state of high pressure endurance to one of burnout. And more than half of teachers, 57%, report negative well-being, with coping mechanisms, navigating the pressures of teaching, and under the weight of permanent stress. That's 57%. And 83% of the respondents said workload was the biggest single contributor. I wonder what signal your school is sending. Please hear that. This isn't an accusation, but it's an invitation. Because when teachers feel crushed, unseen, relentlessly observed rather than supported, they don't blame the system in the abstract. They look to the person at the top of their school, don't they? And again, research is unambiguous on this point. Of all the variables related to working conditions, school leadership had the strongest association with job satisfaction. And it was the strongest predictor of intention to leave. The TES report puts it this way. It said, well-being is shaped by what the school signals is possible. School cultures must be developed in a way that bridges the gap between high expectations and impossible demands, with staff made to feel that their work is valued rather than being held to a standard of perfection that leads to burnout, bridging the gap between high demand and what is possible. Did you hear that? Well-being is shaped by what the school signals is possible. This isn't about what the wellbeing policy says. It's not about what the newsletter promotes. It's culture signals. every day, in every interaction, every decision about what matters and what doesn't. Today, I want to suggest 5 things that actually make teachers stay. And the research isn't vague on these solutions, it's very specific and very consistent. And this is the remarkable part, it's almost entirely free. So, firstly, be the leader they can trust. And the single most powerful retention factor across every major study isn't salary, it's supportive, trusting school leaders. Teachers who feel backed by their head teacher, especially on behaviour and special needs, are significantly more likely to stay. I do remember many years ago having an issue with a complaint against me while I was a junior leader. And all I can remember from that complaint was my head teacher telling me, "I've got your back, Rowena, whatever happens." And that stayed with me all these years. So, secondly, and I find this one amazing, from a survey of over 220,000 teachers, they found that simply telling a teacher directly and personally that you value them and you want them here next year boosted retention from 62% to 73%. That's one conversation. That's zero budget, maximum impact. Amazing, right? The thirdly is give them a voice about what actually matters. This means they say, they suggest, they ask, and you do as the leader. You respond, you take action. You see, staff want to know that they are heard and you respond to that. This can't be a tick box exercise, it has to be real. And fourthly, remove burdens. Don't just sympathize with workload or problems, but actually, it's about removing things from that to-do list. Again, research has shown that it's not about asking what well-being activity can we add. It's about what pressure can we remove? What expectations can we clarify? What signals are we sending about what good looks like? Teachers feel valued when you protect their time, not when you tell them you care about their workload while adding another initiative to the calendar. At a school recently, a head teacher told me she walks around the school at 4:30 p.m. and asks staff why they're still there. Do they need to be there? Is there something she could help with that would reduce their time in school? Now that is removing burdens. That's responsive leadership, isn't it? And lastly, see them as a professional, not as a delivery mechanism, because teachers consistently report feeling devalued when their role is reduced to compliance, to data entry, to performance metrics. Involve them in decisions that affect their work. Trust their judgment. Make professional development something that helps shape them, that they help shape, not something done to them. So, what are you going to change on Monday? I want to end with a question that the TES report asks, because I think it's the most important question in education leadership right now. Protecting staff well-being isn't about asking people to cope better. It's about designing schools and systems in which coping is no longer the default requirement. So here's your challenge. Not a policy review, not a working group. One action for this week. Can I suggest you identify one teacher on your staff who is quietly running on empty, who shows up every day, gives everything, who you haven't said it to recently, and go and say to them specifically, personally, that you see them, that you value them, that you want them still to be here next year. Because research says that single conversation can change whether they stay. And if you want to go further, if you want to look honestly at what your school signal is about people inside your school, what work is available to them? Because staff didn't come to survive, they came to matter. And that is possible for you as a leader. What signal are you giving them? Are you asking if there is something that is tipping them over that perhaps you could reduce for them? Because anything is possible, isn't it? We need our staff to be staying. If this resonates with you, share it with someone who it might help. And I'll see you next time.